Welcome to Women in the Arena podcast, the podcast celebrating women doing extraordinary things in plain sight. I'm your host, Audra Egan, and our mission is to elevate the value, strength, and resilience each woman brings to the world. Without further delay, let's go ahead and start the show. Welcome in, everyone, and thank you for joining me for Season 4 of Women in the Arena podcast. This season, we are going to challenge ourselves. We are going to grow. We're going to stretch. We're going to push ourselves outside our comfort zone, and we're going to do some things that we have been dreaming to do. As I have said before, I may be the one behind the mic, but I don't do this by myself. I do this with all of you. Thank you all for joining me today, and let's go ahead and start the show. Welcome in, everyone, and thank you again for joining me this week. This week, oh my goodness, my guest today, she is so remarkable. I cannot wait for you to get to know her. I am joined this week with Karina Sanchez, and she is an international keynote speaker. She's a coach, she's a mentor, and her heart is with mentoring professional women in all industries. She is an author. Her book is Leadership for the New Female Manager, and it is now recently a bestseller on Amazon. And today, as a special gift from her, everyone will receive a free audio copy of her book. It is both my pleasure and my honor to introduce to you Karina Sanchez. Karina, thank you so much for joining me today, and welcome to the show.
Oh my goodness, Audra, what a beautiful introduction. Thank you so much. It's so great to be here. It's so fun to be here. I can't wait to get into our conversation.
And I know you and I met, and of course we meet virtually. And of course we were instantly in sync, which I love that. We are women of a common goal. We have similar minds, and I can't wait for everybody to hear our conversation because it is really, really important. And today's theme is to engage, and we're going to pick that apart of what engaging means and why it's so important and all of the aspects of it. But before we jump into that, Karina has such a fascinating background. You need to hear more about her. So Karina, will you tell us a little bit more about you and who you are and where you're coming from?
Absolutely. Wow, my story started, I'm Polish background. So I was born and raised in Poland, in, I guess, communist Poland back then. And so when my parents decided to leave the country, I was 11 years old, 12 years old, I believe. Did the whole thing, immigration, landed in Canada, have lived in Canada for a really long time. And then I decided, you know what, I am going to explore the world. So I moved and I lived in Latin America for a good part of about 15 years. So great things happened. One is I got to learn some languages. So of course I speak Polish because that's my heritage, but I also speak now Spanish and Portuguese. I had the opportunity to live in Panama. My son was born actually in Guatemala. So I have a very tight, knit community of my awesome Latino friends. And of course, then I lived in Brazil, and my daughter was born in Sao Paulo. And now I'm doing a lot of work in Brazil as well, which includes, keynotes, but I'm doing those in their language. So I do all of my keynotes in Spanish, or I do it in Portuguese if I'm in Brazil, and of course in English when I'm in Canada or North America. So that's really it in a nutshell. I decided to focus in on women because I find that our struggles are different. So there you have it, Audra. That's the long story, super short.
Like I said, super fascinating, an amazing background that this young girl from Poland is now ingrained in the Latin community, which is awesome. And by the way, she is blonde as blonde can be. So So she fits in well, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah. So, the funniest thing is that everybody who sees my last name, because it's actually Golovic Sanchez, I have two, but in Latin, as you know, in Latin America, you generally will get the last name from, you keep yours and then you get your husband, so you end up having like a compilation of last names. But I go with Sanchez, and people look at me and they go, "Yeah, what? How is that? Right? How is that you're a Sanchez?" So then I have to go through the
Yeah.
whole spiel of explaining how did I get to Sanchez. And I'm super proud of my Sanchez last name. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I would wear that proudly. I mean, if you are lucky enough to have a Latin last name, show it off.
Show it off. That's what I
Absolutely
say.
show it off. And and your focus, your mission is to empower women
Yeah.
and teach them to engage. And we're going to start at the basic of engage. And the first and most important place to start with engaging is yourself
Hmm.
and finding your center
Yeah.
or finding your true voice, which gets buried under our
Yeah.
responsibility and social demands and things that we put on ourselves. And I mean, and layer on layer on layer. But let's start there on your focus of finding your center.
Yeah. So that's not easy, is it? You and
No.
I actually talked about that a little bit in our past conversations. And that's not easy. What is engaging, right? Engaging in your career, engaging in life. It's showing up, right? It's really showing up in a way that speaks to you, that's really authentic to you. So then you have to pick that apart. How do you do that? And I find that this is the area where women tend to struggle because we've got stuff to do. We're not just professionals, we are mothers. And a lot of us are mothers first. Or if we've had a career before we became mothers, we had to pause that for a while. And then, our mother role took over. And then we had to, re-emerge again and rediscover, because at that point, maybe our things, the way we look at life, what we want to do with our life professionally has changed. Because if we stay at home for those 5 years, or in some cases even longer, could be 10 years, we emerge again as a different person. So again, we're back to square one and trying to reinvent ourselves, right? So what does that look like? Um, it's not easy, but it's not impossible, right? It can definitely be done. It's just a matter of looking at the stories that run in our heads and choosing the right one. And I always have to remind myself, and this is a daily thing. Honestly, it doesn't even matter how long I've been teaching this and how long I've been working with women. I find that we always have this almost, and I don't want to say insecurity, but it is an insecurity, right? Because what is imposter syndrome? What is this feeling of this doubt, self doubt of can I, oh my God, am I good enough, to reach out for this star? Or can I reach out for that position? We know that men don't have this. I don't know why they don't have this, but they don't
Because
have this.
they weren't born with this gene.
Mm,
It's missing. And society and tradition has fostered this idea with men that you can do anything. You absolutely can do anything. You don't even have to have all the tools. Just go for it. Just have the machismo, if you will, to go and go for it. And they're like, yeah, no problem. I've got I've got 2 skills out of 20. I'm
hmm
perfect for it. And society encourages that for men.
hmm
For women, it's you might have 18 out of the 20 skills. Oh, but that's not good enough. I mean, and look at the things that we see in magazines, on TV. There's this perception of you have to be perfect or you're not enough. You're not enough at anything. you're not smart enough, you're not accomplished enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not a good enough mother, or you've decided not to be a mother at all, or you're married or you're not married. It's you never win because society has all of these contradictions and they're going in your head 24/7. It's a loud, loud place up there. And they're thoughts that you didn't start with yourself. They were put there, and they're put there every single day by our entire environment. And unless you get really, really quiet and find that that inner voice, it's really hard to shut all that up.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it is really all about finding that voice, right? It is all about taking a moment to figure out which of these stories work for me and which don't, right? Which of these actually work against me. So it's being able to literally sit down in a quiet place and sift through all this information that's coming at me. And I find that, when I've done a lot of research when I wrote the book and prior to writing the book on how women see ourselves, how do we see ourselves versus how men see themselves. The difference there is that we have the same abilities, right? We have all the same structure, but we are given a different gene. And this gene is this sort of empathy gene that works for us, but in some ways, it actually can, if we allow it, to work against us. So we tend to be very empathetic with others. And we, have this ability to, as you know, being a mom, you take care of your child, you make sure that the child is raised properly, that they have all the values, and you instill in them all the things that they need. And then you sort of forget to instill that in you. And so a lot of my work is actually reminding women who they are because they've forgotten along the way. Because what I'm noticing with women is we stay in the same story, right? And we stay there for a long time, even though the story doesn't serve us anymore. Like it just doesn't work. In fact, it's beginning to now hurt us, right? In the way that it potentially hurts our promotion. It hurts the friendships or even the relationship that I might have with my spouse right now. We tend to want to hang on to it because that is all that we know. And so what I'm saying is it though? Is it all that you know? Because I can guarantee that you know more than this and you know better than this. You're just not willing to stretch yourself, right? I went through a very difficult period when I lived in Brazil. Super, super difficult. It was one of those situations where if I didn't have the awareness, it really was a life and death type of situation. And so I had to make a decision quickly because my kids were very, very young. And so I had to make a decision whether or not I was going to pull through this or whether I was going to surrender and just give up. And believe me, it took all my energy at the time, and it took the closest circle of my friends at the time to say, hey, you know what? You can do this, and we're here for you, and you can absolutely get through this. And sometimes it really is just a sentence, right? Just a word or someone believing that you can, because maybe in that moment, you don't even think or feel that you can. And so a lot of what I started to do and a lot of this sort of empowerment movement that I started, right? This journey that I started on was because I noticed that even in a coaching session, just taking a moment and acknowledging that the person is going through something and they are so caught up in a story, right? And saying, hey, you know what? You can do this. Just this energy of believing in them changes what they think and believe about themselves, really changes their lives, and it moves it in a different direction. When we make the leap, right? And it is a leap of faith. Believe me when I tell you, when I made the leap from corporate into my own consulting business, it was one of these leaps where it felt like, oh my God, it was an exhale. And I literally felt like I jumped off the boat into an ocean, and it was like sink or swim, you know? I came up for air and I started swimming, and I knew it was going to be okay. Somehow it was going to be okay. And a lot of the times that leap is exactly that, whether it's professional, whether it's personal, whether it comes in a moment where you least expect it. Um, it is really about just letting go, right? And knowing that everything will be okay, that you will be okay. I don't know if you've had this experience, whether you in your audience folks have had this experience, but it's incredibly empowering once you get there.
I think that we've all had that experience. It's that back to centering yourself and finding your real voice, your true voice. And I've said this a couple of times that once you unbury yourself of all those layers that I had mentioned before, and you are brave enough to slough them off, because there is a bit of bravery that happens to ignore all that noise, and you get to the center and you find your voice, you cannot shut her up. She's really, really loud. Like, she is really, really, really loud. You can't ignore her. And she empowers you to do crazy things. Well, things that you would previously think are nuts. Think,
Mhm.
why would I do that? I have to do this, 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 and this. I have this responsibility, this responsibility, this responsibility. That is crazy. There's no way I could do that. But that voice is so loud, you can't ignore it anymore. So you have no choice but to jump and or leap and close your eyes and go, okay, I'm going to do this. It's crazy, but I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And the most magical things happen. For me, I mean, I've done that a couple of different times, but the biggest leap I think I have ever taken in my life is starting this podcast,
Yeah.
because I had no idea what I was doing. No clue. Literally no clue. I was just like, how hard could it be? And it turns out it's really hard. But that was my thought, is how hard could this be? And I put myself out there, vulnerable, every single week. That's scary. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm putting myself out there blindly, not knowing
Mhm.
who's going to hear it, how they're going to respond, what's going to happen. I just put it out there because I have to. I'm compelled to. I'm pushed every single day to talk to as many women as I can and ask them to do the same. Ask them to give me their vulnerability, to give me their transparency, and put it out there in the world,
Mhm.
because I've chosen to embrace the unknown,
Mhm.
and I've chosen to embrace this fear, and this fear of failing out loud, because being stuck in that narrative and being stuck in that story was more frightening
Yeah.
than going forward. And it's been the most exhilarating, exhausting, um, most satisfying, humbling growth opportunity of my entire life.
Yeah.
And that's because I got quiet, and then I found that voice, and then it got loud and louder and louder, and to the point you can't ignore it. You just
Mhm.
can't. And that's what your entire platform is first getting quiet and finding who you are
Mm-hmm.
and allowing that voice to be heard and allowing that voice to grow and being brave enough to fail magnificently.
I
And
love it.
I don't and I don't believe in true failure. The
No,
only true failure out there is the failure to even try.
absolutely.
That is the true failure. It is not a failure if you go out and try something and it doesn't work. That just you just know that particular try is not successful. So you try something again and again and again and again. They're all learning opportunities.
Right.
They're just opportunities for you to know, okay, well, that didn't work. Let me try it a little bit differently and try it again. And there's just magic in that. And when you and I had spoke before, you said something so profound. I wrote it down. It was, you need to forgive yourself for not being perfect.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
What's perfect anyway? What is perfect, right? It is whatever it is to you, right? But how many of us hold ourselves against this sort of measurement of perfection? I have no idea what that is. I'm 49 almost next month, and I still don't know what perfection is. And I don't care. Do you, Audra?
I don't
Because
care. I
no
mean,
one,
I cared at 35.
yeah,
I even cared at 45. But something happened between 45 and almost 51 that I suddenly didn't care anymore
right.
because I realized that it was all a lie.
Yeah,
Perfection is a lie. Even the beautiful women, and the world is filled with beautiful women. They're not perfect. Nobody is perfect. What you see is airbrushed.
that's right. That's right.
It's not real.
That's right. And I have a very interesting example about this because my daughter, who's 11 years old, wants to be an actress. She is in the film industry and she's actually acting in a couple of movies right now that are on Netflix, some series. And so looking at this film industry gives you a really incredible perspective as to their take on beauty, because we have to be very cautious, right? We all have an idea in our minds what a beautiful woman or a beautiful person is all about. And I have come across some incredibly beautiful people. I always came to the same realization every single time. They were only beautiful when they had something incredible to say, a tip that they could offer that would help another person, because the beauty is so skin deep. So I've had some great conversations with key folks in the industry, and they say, you know what? They would rather work with people who maybe are not so perfect looking, right, on the outside, but are incredibly awesome to work with. Once they've worked with one actor who is like this, the word spreads around in the industry, just like the word spreads around in your industry, in your organization. You become the person everyone wants to work with and go to, because now you're the subject matter expert and you're easy to work with and you're authentic and you're trustworthy. And now all of a sudden the word has spread around, and guess what? Everybody's coming to you. Audra, you have this experience all the time. You're the go-to person now. Why? Why do you think that is? It's not because you're a negative person, because you're not nice to talk to, because you have nothing good to say. It's because you uplift people, and because you have maybe this experience of this podcast, and thank God that you do, because it's a platform where women can come, or women and men alike, and can learn something, can take value from this and move in the world and change their own life. And you never know if there's something that you and I just talked about today that someone heard and said, you know what? I'm going to treat my kid differently today, or I'm going to talk to my husband in a different way today. And that is what you do. That is exactly why you do it, isn't it?
That is absolutely why I do it, because I, I tell everybody and they look at me funny, and I don't care because I keep doing it. I tell everybody, I want to change the world. I want to change the world. I absolutely believe one person can change the world. I'm just doing it one interview at a time because, you just like you said, you and I might say something that clicks with one person across the globe.
Yeah.
And that person, male or female, doesn't matter, changes their perspective.
Right.
There is a shift in their thought process, regardless of circumstances. But they make an active choice. And then their world changes. And then they start behaving in a certain way or a different way that starts to have a ripple effect.
You got it.
And that's what we do. And in my case, I decided to focus on women because I'm a woman. this is my area of expertise.
Right.
I'm a woman, and I wanted to talk about things that affect me, that I think about, and I knew that there would be other women out there looking for the same thing. I mean, listen, if you want a podcast that is highly, highly overproduced and has famous people on it, I can give you 200 of them. But that's not what this is. Karina and I, neither one of us are famous, but she's doing amazing, remarkable things in the world to change people's lives. And we get to connect. We're not even in the same country right
Right.
now. And we get to connect for the hopes and purposes to help change others' lives and to encourage, like I said, that engagement that we talked about. And we had talked about the engagement of first engaging with yourself. And then our hope is that helps promote engagement in other ways with other people, with other women. Before we came on the show, she and I talked about how women are so powerful once they figure out where their power is coming from.
Oh yeah.
And then you can't turn it off. And then women that sit in that space suddenly attract other women that are in that same space. And you don't even need to be in the same room for that to happen. And you suddenly become a force. So, I mean, Karina, you're experiencing that right now.
Right now, Audra, you and I just talked about this. So I want to make sure that the audience really gets how powerful we are. We are a force of nature. I mean, we are a force to be reckoned with. It is not a joke. So, I'm starting to talk about the book. I mean, I have been in this industry for 20 years. And let me tell you, I have seen leadership change in ways that I didn't even think is possible. And I am so happy that it has, because it's opened up so many doors for women, right? But so today I'm having a conversation. I said, hey, talking to a girlfriend of mine, that I just had this intuition that I had to contact this morning, 7:30 a.m. Called her. I said, "Hey, listen, how are you doing? I just wanted to let you know my book is literally done and it's translated into Portuguese. Do you think that there are women in Brazil that I can reach? Because I'll be honest with you, what's happening with this book in North America is incredible. It's caught on fire. It's like what is that movie with Jennifer Lawrence where it's like, it's on fire, like her dress was in that movie. I think everyone knows what I'm talking about. And I know that I can make a difference in Brazil. I already speak Portuguese. Is there any way that you can get me hooked up? She replied immediately. She goes, Karina, you need to do a keynote. We have an HR conference here in June. You've got to be in that thing. I'm like, what? I haven't even really practiced my Portuguese. Girl, where are you going with that? She goes, no. Don't worry. We're going to practice. You're going to be in within 5 minutes, Audra. I'm in doing a keynote for a audience of 10,000 professionals in our industry, right? And the HR sort of, learning and development, talent and learning and all of this. I'm doing I want to speak Portuguese now. I'm doing a keynote. she connected me with another person who is now has me added into another keynote. Within an hour and a half, I've had 3 women on 2 continents, 3 actually, because we're talking now Latin America, Central America, and North America. Within an hour and a half, I'm doing 3 conferences, 3 keynotes, 2 in Portuguese, 1 in English. I'm going to Orlando. Have no idea when even that one is happening, but I have to make sure I'm going to be on that plane. And now my book is being translated to Spanish in 2 weeks from now. So, folks, talking to 2 women, I'm probably going to touch, I don't know, 30,000, maybe 40,000 people, maybe more if we count all the social media. Audra, I am bringing you with me, girl, because we got to put this podcast out there. So imagine the power of women and imagine the power of you saying, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm just going to go for it. I have no idea how. I have no idea. I will think about it and worry about it when I get there. I'm going to prep so that I can be ready, but I'm doing it. I will step into that role and see what else happens.
Yeah, it's magic. It is
It's magic.
magic. I'm here to tell you that when you lean into that, and I know, first I need to back up and say, I know what you're thinking, but my family, but my kids, but
Mm-hmm.
my responsibilities, but my this, but my that, that'll all be okay.
Mm-hmm.
It'll all be okay. I promise you that will all be okay.
I promise
But
you, because I'm a single mom and I'm leaving them behind with the grandma. So it's got to be okay.
yeah, it's got to be okay. But you are going to be such a better mom, wife, professional, whatever it is, whatever role or hat that you wear,
Yeah.
or the multiple hats and roles that you are, it will all be okay, and they will be better for it. You will be better for it. For finally, number one, hearing that voice, and number two, making yourself a priority.
Yeah.
I think about what kind of role model am I putting myself out there for my kids?
Right?
And I have one of each. I have a
Mm-hmm.
daughter and a son. And while they don't, they're not super impressed that I have a podcast because they don't care. They don't care, but they will. They will care. They absolutely will care. And they are watching.
Mm-hmm.
And your your circle of influence is watching you.
Mm-hmm.
And you are encouraging and influencing people around you to do the same.
Yeah. You're
It's
empowering them,
remarkable.
right?
Yes.
You're
And
empowering them.
that's the whole point, is that I want to reach across and empower other women, other people in general, to embrace who they were put on this earth to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Follow that dream. Follow that dream fearlessly. And if you feel the fear, fine, feel it, but do it anyway. Don't let it stop you, right? Don't allow it to stop you. Feel it, shake, cry, scream, pound the wall. I don't care. Get under covers. I cry so much in front of my kids. They're like, Mom, oh my God, you're crying again. They literally went from being worried about me to now just saying, like, it's just my mom processing. So it's okay, right? It's okay to process, and however you need to process. Just don't let it stop you, friends. Don't let it stop you, because you don't know what you have to offer until you do.
Absolutely. And I'll share a really interesting story with you, which and it was very simple, and it was a very interesting moment. And I think that's when the light bulb went off, when you say about people watching. And then I know I just said that my kids don't care that I have a podcast, but they are paying attention. And this is why. Have you been watching the show The Gilded Age on HBO?
I haven't.
Well, it is, The Gilded Age is basically the American version of Downton Abbey. As a matter of fact, it's produced and written by the same gentleman who did Downton Abbey. And my daughter and I were sitting on the couch. We were watching this week's episode, and she looks at me. She says, "Mom, who's your favorite character?" And I was like, "Why is she asking me this question?" But okay, I'll play along. And I was like, "Well, probably Bertha. And Bertha is this character who, um, it's new money. She has new money. She's not afraid to spend it. She knows exactly who she is. She doesn't care that she is making waves, and she is pushing forward regardless of the social norms that are being forced upon her about having old money and all of that. She doesn't care. She wants to make a better life for herself and for her children and for her husband. And that's who this character is. And I said, probably Bertha. She looks at me, she goes, that tracks. I'm like, okay, please explain, child. What do you mean? She's like, you're her. I said, what? What do you mean I'm her? She says, Mom, I've watched you move mountains to make a better life for yourself, for me, for my brother, and for Dad. And I went, huh, I guess
Yeah.
she is paying attention.
Yeah.
And it was a conversation based on a TV show.
Isn't it brilliant though? They are watching. They are watching all the time. I have the same thing. I'm just like you. A boy and a girl, daughter 11, son 12. Boy, are they watching. Ugh, it's almost scary. Pay attention to everything that's happening. And it's brilliant. It's brilliant because, they see us, they see everything, right? They see the struggle. They see us succeed. They see us probably cry a little, maybe feel sorry for ourselves a little. Oh, yeah, feel sorry for yourself. It's all right. Just don't stay in it, right? Don't stay in it. Give yourself time to get out of it and recover and keep going, because that's the idea, because they will be watching that too. And it will teach them that it's okay to fail, or what, we say fail, really what it is. It's okay to try this thing on and it doesn't work out. Oh my God. And then we cry a little about it and then we move and do something else. It's okay, because how would we know any different if we didn't try, right? Everything in life is trial and error, trial and error. Okay, try this one on, doesn't work. It's kind of like clothing. It doesn't fit, great. Throw that one out, pick a size bigger or size smaller, right? But just don't stop trying, because our kids are watching. And I think it's so important that us as women, you know, will your daughter believe in herself if you don't believe in yourself?
Absolutely not, because I'm
Absolutely
I'm
not.
I'm teaching her how.
Yeah.
Even though she's 21, I am still teaching her how.
Oh, you will
Probably
be
now more
teaching.
so.
Yeah, and you'll be teaching until the day you die, right? So what? We have another good 50 years left in us, Audra. Let's be real, right?
Yeah,
Hopefully, right? Really good 50 years. They will be watching us for those next 50 years. How do we show up in life, as leaders or as victims? Because I choose not to be a victim. I could have made that decision a few years ago. I didn't, because I knew that my responsibility first and foremost was my kids are watching.
wait, I can't believe that our time is almost up. I mean, you and I could talk for hours, but this is what I want everybody to hear. One, congratulate yourself every single day for all of the small wins that you accomplish every day, because you do. Absolutely. Everyone listening accomplishes something every single day. So be kind to yourself and congratulate yourself for that. Number two, find that voice. And if you need help, reach out to me, reach out to Karina. We will help you. We will help you find that voice. If all that is that we need to sit with you and talk to you and listen, you'd be amazed what kind of clarity you get when you just have someone else to talk to. And be brave enough to be you. There is nothing more magnificent than when someone finally figures out who they are and they put themselves out there in the world and you are in line with your purpose. I've said this before and I will keep saying this until everybody believes me. When you are in line with your purpose, you glow. I promise you, there is a glow that is like no cosmetic company can ever duplicate. And people see it and they are attracted to it and they want more of it. They want to know, how did you get that? And it is your responsibility to teach them and show them how. So that's what I want to leave you with. Karina, I want to allow you to leave the audience with something else as well.
Oh my goodness. It's so right. You're so right, Audra. You and I can talk for hours on this on end because I think this conversation is so hugely important. And I know that life can throw things at us, right? Life every day, our businesses, our jobs, our home life, right? Our workplaces, we will get bombarded, inundated with information. I mean, think about your brain, how quickly it can process all the information that's coming at you. Your heart, however, is a little bit slower. So there's one thing that I will just leave you with, and that's get out there and find what works for you to just quiet down. Audra mentioned this really early on, but it's in the quiet that we find ourselves, right? It's in the quiet that we find our mission. We find our gifts, the things that we are here on this planet, on this earth to do in this lifetime. So find those things, and the glow only comes from that place. And all it is just you knowing who you are, right? Knowing who you are and spreading that word. And so what happens is the more, and people think, oh my God, I can't go out on my own and do this or do that because I don't know how. When you find your mission and you become true to it, it doesn't matter because you will not have to work really hard. All of a sudden, your glow will attract the right people, the right circumstances, the right jobs, the right businesses, the right contracts so that you can spread the word even further. So don't be afraid, but get quiet and find it. And I promise you, it will be a life worth living.
Oh my goodness. That gives me chills every time I hear it. And it's absolutely true. Karina, where can the audience find you if they want to connect with you?
Audra, they can find me on my website, which you will probably provide, but it's www.karinagsanchez.com. And of course, you will be giving away the book for free, which is fantastic. I hope everyone gets an opportunity to read it. And please, if you have read it and it rang true for you, leave me your honest review on Amazon. I will absolutely appreciate it.
I thank you again for being so generous with allowing the audience to have access to your book. I definitely appreciate it because whatever we can provide to help people find a roadmap to finding their voice is so much appreciated. So thank you again for your generosity. And thank you again for your generosity of time, because I've spent amazing time with you and I definitely appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much, Audra. It means so much to me, to be here. And I loved every second. You're doing a fantastic job with this podcast. And I can't wait to put it on every platform so that we can spread this amazing word.
Absolutely. Everybody be brave enough, find your voice, and go out and do what life has intended you to do. Thank you so much for joining us again this week, and we'll see you again next time. That's our show. Thank you all so much for spending your time with me and continuing to support this show, this community, and our endeavor to change the world one interview at a time. If you have any ideas for a new show or for a guest that you'd like me to interview, please reach out to me at audra@womeninthearena.net. Thank you again for all of your support, and we'll see you again next time.
This is just the beginning.
that's our show. I am so grateful for each and every one of you and your unwavering support and your continued belief in this movement that has become much bigger than me, much bigger than just a podcast. It has become this forward momentum that we are all doing together. If you are ready, or you know somebody that is ready to tell your story and share your value with the world, please connect with me. You can reach me at audra@womeninthearena.net. I am so honored and thankful that you will share your story with me, and I'll make sure that it is well taken care of. I will never stop thanking each and every one of you, and I cannot wait to talk to you again next week as we share another woman's story and we celebrate her doing extraordinary things in plain sight. We'll see you next time.